And one more thing before I let him introduce himself. Basically, For the Love of My Father is what I call a spiritual guide for healing from the absence of a father, which is something that there are a lot of women in the world that have that experience of growing up without a father, which is fatherlessness, or as a result of that, or having a bad relationship with their dad. They have what people commonly call daddy issues. And my entire position is, having been that daughter that grew up without her father, that it is possible to come into the world, to have that experience of being fatherless, or even having some other male in your life in the father position, to suffer that experience, and it is possible to overcome. And so I like having conversation with men like Eric, who, at least from my perspective, appear to be examples of what being a good father looks like. So Eric, tell everybody about yourself, and then we'll get in further to the discussion.
Yeah. Well, first of all, thank you. I know we've been trying to do this for some time, and I'm glad that here we are finally. And I appreciate the fact that you, in your observation, as you said, over the years, and as you said, I'm big social media, and as we were talking, like I said, I'm an open book. I even go through the process of almost every day posting something. Like my youngest daughter said, "Daddy, you need to get on TikTok." And I'm like, "Yeah." And I mean, for the last couple of years, she's been telling me that, and I'm like, "I got time for that." But anyway, so I finally have, and that's another story why I have. But me, I was born in Fort Pierce, Florida. But I lived there. Can't say I lived there. My grandmother took me to the Bahamas when I was 8 months old. I'm Bahamian on my father's side. My father was in the military. So I was raised in the Bahamas, in Nassau, until I was 6. So can't say raised, but from an infant to 6 years old. And when my father got out of the military, I went to where he ended up living, which is a little town called Lockport, New York. And I always try to describe it as it's north of Buffalo, 35 miles north of Buffalo, and 18 miles east of Niagara Falls. So
That sounds cold. That sounds very cold.
Yeah, it's very cold. It's a snow belt, and I mean literally snow. I remember seeing snow drifts to the top of the eaves of your house. Oh. Yeah, so that kind of snow. And I grew up there, but also I had an interesting upbringing, and I'll get into that the latter part of it later. But I actually grew up between Buffalo or Lockport and Miami. Literally kindergarten, first, second grade in Lockport, third grade, fourth, and the first half of fifth grade in Miami, second half of fifth grade in Lockport, sixth and seventh grade, eighth, ninth, 10th, and 11th grade in Miami, and 12th grade in Lockport. So I was back and forth. And so I say I grew up building snowmen and sandcastles.
Wow.
So that's the name of my book that I haven't written yet.
Okay. There's always time. There's always time.
Yeah. So after graduating, I claimed Miami Edison, as my school and my classmates, even though I didn't graduate there. As I said, I graduated up in Lockport, but Edison is my school. I went to college for 2 months, and then that was my first lesson in, as I say never, because it was the end of the Vietnam War, and I joined the Army. And I was at 17, I was a paratrooper jumping out of airplanes, and I knew I wasn't going to stay in the Army. So after 3 years of being in the Army, I came back to Miami and I got a degree in merchandising and a minor in marketing. I wanted to be a buyer. I was always into fashion, and that part I actually started modeling professionally and acting professionally while I was in college. And
Let me ask you a question before you go on. Do you think you went into the army because your dad did? Or it's
yeah,
just
I knew exactly it was because my dad did.
okay.
And I 82nd Airborne because my father was a paratrooper also. So it
Okay.
was definitely because of that. And like I
Mm-hmm.
said, I'll get into latter years as we go on.
Right.
But so came back to Miami, worked for a nonprofit for many years, building affordable housing in Coconut Grove and helping businesses in Grand Avenue, the Black Grove, as we called it, the hole in the donut, because the Black Grove that's basically under attack now from gentrification. And it's truly, we got two communities that I would say, in terms of being gentrified, it is Overtown and Coconut Grove because that's where Black people lived, and
Mm-hmm.
in that hole in the donut, and as well as Overtown. And now you have, unfortunately, a lot of families selling their homes for, um, and that's another conversation. I mean, they make the decision to sell their homes, but you have these homes being sold for maybe 400, $500,000 in the last couple of years, and they're building $1.2 million mini. They're not even mansions; they're basically
Mm-hmm.
basic houses, uh,
Right.
considering today. And so that Black community is really disappearing. So I did that for 86 to 97, roughly. And I then joined the Miami Dolphins organization and the Florida Marlins. So I was a part of that in professional sports in different capacities, started community and government affairs, and actually had a little short stint with American Airlines in '99. And September 11th happened, and I was fortunate to go back to the Dolphins and the stadium. They say never
Mm-hmm.
burn your bridges. So I was
Mm-hmm.
able to go back as the guest services director, which I trained all of the game day staff, and as I said, took care of the cold hot dog and warm beer complaints. And I did that for 15, yeah, and I did that for 15 years. And
And say you didn't go through your paces, right? You've done a
yeah,
little bit
yeah.
of everything.
Oh, absolutely. And then I've been running the Miami-Dade Chamber, as you see.
I see.
I'm the president of the Miami-Dade Chamber for 10 years now. Actually, next year will make 10 years. And Chamber's been around for 50 years. We celebrate 50 years next year. And so I've been doing that. And our focus is building small Black business, minorities, and women. Our mission is to provide opportunities for economic and social transformation in our community. So I have a team of 5 others that work with me doing that. As I said, I always say I'm the head bottle washer. So keep the bottles coming.
Absolutely.
So that's pretty much me. And I have 2 beautiful daughters. Uh, Eric,
Absolutely. Okay. Yeah.
Erica, who just had my first grandchild,